remember the time the backyard looked like this at my son Nate's wedding that got messed up by the big COVID thing. What was that? I forgot about it. Anyway, we had a nice wedding party, but this is great because I know everybody here. I only knew some of the people at the wedding. And I have an advantage over everybody here because I think I know everybody here. But thank you all for coming, the young, the old, the very old.
He points to you, Kevin.
Some people that don't look as old as they are. There, I got that back. But I did want to thank you all for coming and making this like one of the greatest days that I ever had not in broadcast. And it was such a pleasure working with all of you. And there's a handful of people here that it really started with. And for me, it was this guy, Kevin V. Lynn. He won't tell you what the V stands for. Kevin was the first guy I worked with. I didn't even know how to edit videotape. I only knew how to edit film. So the first stories I shot him, and the editing had to be done by Kevin. Kevin was a sports anchor from
78 to early 81.
81. And he left right from here to New York City, which was a hell of a market jump at the time. But he also was told to keep me busy because we had never had a sports photographer before. And I was always praying that he wouldn't get fired because he had a way with the bosses that preserved us. You know, and it is funny because I'm still here. But he kept me busy.
And I've been fired several times.
Yeah. But it was the and again, I see faces out there of people that I loved working with. But it was this guy. It all started there. And I thank you for coming.
Thank you. Listen, folks, I am Kevin Lynn. The V stands for Viking, which is proof that you can't help what your parents name you. In any event, I wanted to say a few words tonight about Mark because I know, just looking around here at the people I remember, many of you worked with him far longer, okay? And many of you worked with him far better, okay? But I got him first. I'd just like to say a little something about that because it was one of those great moments in my life, a real education. Here was this kid, 22 years old. He'd gotten out of Ithaca College about 5 minutes before, showed up, you know, and of course their threat was, you better keep him busy or we're going to take him and do something else with him. Yeah. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, how am I ever going to get to the big time if I don't have a shooter, if I don't have a sports team? And I looked at him and I thought, wow, okay. Anyway, so I am thrilled to say, after all these years, that I got over that asinine feeling in about 3 days, okay? I told him how he didn't even like sports. I told him how you shoot sports, how you frame it, you know, so that you can catch the action. You know, we talked about setups and shots, and he did all the rest. I mean, you know, he did all the rest. His equipment, and this may have changed over the decades since I've been there, his equipment always worked. He saw to that. He always had enough, back in the day, videotapes to use. He saw to that. He knew exactly what he shot on every tape, anytime we went, because he took as copious a notes as I did. Mark was just this all-time pro right from the beginning.
Well, thank you.
And this is true. And I went off, I had my misadventures in New York City and CBS Network and ESPN and all that, and came back thinking I still had a couple of good years in me. You know how it is. It gets under your skin. You go in the news business, right? I mean, there are all kinds of people who know this, you know, they're standing in this crowd. And it gets under your skin. So I came back and I was doing news. And he was just great helping me cover the news. He heard things I didn't hear. He saw things I didn't see. He shot everything. So anyway, I know that other people have wonderful things to say about Mark, but I got him first, and I'm just so proud for him. if I said I was proud of him, it's because I felt like I had something to do with him. But, I started him off. I give him the first 2 laps. He's been at this for 40 years. It's on him and the rest of you. So, thank you.
I love you. Anybody else have anything nice to say?
Did you remember what? No Matt Rush?
He didn't mention things that I didn't do. Oh, gosh. I still remember a great moment.
Oh no! I'm out of film. I'm out of film.
Kevin and I was still friends with guys that were still at Ithaca. We went to cover Watkins Glen because the Pennsylvanian Mario Andretti was going for this, whatever. It's not NASCAR, but it was the Formula One. Sorry, thank you. Formula One World Championship, Mario Andretti. Kevin and I show up like 2 little guys, like peeking over the fence at this beautiful compound. They had this like setup. It was some Jatane something or other. I don't know, is that French cigarettes or something?
I don't even know what you said.
Yeah, and we show up, and I remember peering over the fence. And Kevin's like, I got to get an interview to justify us traveling all the way to New York State. I wonder, and Mario comes over and he goes, Kevin Lynn, I watch you on TV. I remember that moment. It was like, I'm beaming. It's like he watches us.
I was so flustered. I mean, here's the guy who's famous for being the greatest in the world at what he does. I was famous for being on TV, in a very local station.
And then he admitted he had a house somewhere near Long Pond or something, so he was from it. Yeah, that was great. World Series, a bunch of other things. Yeah. Too long.
You and I, you're the one that tapped the President of the United States' phone with me in Sandusky's bar?
Teresa Ledeski.
Okay, yeah, you got that. I have to tell that.
Yep.
Cholly.
I thought you were going to do a good. Hello, Haberskis. Ring the bell.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, I see her every once in a while.
Oh God, Kevin hates us.
Oh no.
This will be short. This is the time. It will be short, David.
It's just going to kill the music.
This is the time Mark and I were almost arrested because we tapped the phone of President Reagan's phone call. But no one, he and I are the only ones that remember that. Mrs. Who was it again, Mark? What's her name? Mark.
Yes.
Sandusky? Sandusky had a bar in Eversville. Okay, and her son was Bruce German, who was a hostage in Iran. Right? So Mrs. Sandusky got the word that she was going to get a call from Washington because when Reagan was sworn in, the hostages were going to be released. And she was told she'd be receiving a telephone call. So we were set up in her bar. And I told her, wait till the second ring before you answer the phone. We had the phone tapped. And it was President Reagan himself that called her and said, we'd like to announce that, but we had the president's phone. And the only story I had was Mary Ann here, and I just apologized to her again for many times. It was her first live shot ever on WBRE. She was a producer. And I cued her. And down the road about a mile, there's this arrow from a sign that was going bing, 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 in Mary Ellen's ear. So that's all I have to say.
Very good moment.
Dennis and I were in the bar with you that night.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only night Bob and I have ever spent in a bar.
Is that something on the monitor?
And I had
Is that something on the monitor?
Ronald Reagan, Ford over there. I told you that.